Greatness is not reserved for the few. It is not some distant achievement locked away for the chosen, nor a crown handed only to those born into extraordinary circumstances. Greatness is woven into the everyday choices we make, the quiet commitments we honor, and the way we decide to show up in the world. This is the central reminder of the Greatness Guide, that every single one of us has the ability to step into a larger, more purposeful version of ourselves, no matter where we are starting from. The book does not ask you to abandon who you are, but to elevate it, to refine what is already within you, to shape your ordinary days into extraordinary ones. When we think about greatness, it's easy to imagine it only in terms of monumental achievements, the invention that changes history, the speech that inspires nations, the victory that secures a place in the record books. But real greatness is quieter, more personal, and more practical than that. It is about crafting a life that feels authentic, fulfilling, and impactful. It's about leading with kindness, protecting your integrity, balancing ambition with humility, and finding joy even in the small, everyday details. And most of all, it is about remembering that every one of us has influence, whether it's over a family, a team, a company, or simply our own habits. And that influence can either elevate or diminish the world around us. The lessons that follow in this book are not abstract theories. They are grounded in practical wisdom drawn from leaders, creators, and ordinary individuals who learn to stretch themselves beyond the expected. They remind us that greatness is not found in occasional bursts of effort, but in steady, daily practices. It lives in the way you prepare for your day, the way you listen to others, the way you handle setbacks, and the way you chase possibilities when fear tries to hold you back. And perhaps most importantly, it is found in the way you treat yourself with discipline, but also with respect. Because you cannot live greatly if you treat your own mind, body, and spirit as anything less than sacred. This is not a book about perfection. In fact, the pursuit of perfection is one of the great illusions that keeps so many from living fully. Greatness comes not from flawless execution, but from courageous effort. It is about falling and rising, about learning as you go, about taking risks and allowing yourself to grow through them. Failure is not the opposite of greatness. It is one of its essential ingredients. The difference between those who live ordinary lives and those who craft extraordinary ones often lies in how they handle failure. Do they shrink back and accept limitation? Or do they lean forward and use the experience to refine their path? The Greatness Guide insists on the second choice, to turn every setback into fuel for progress. The coming lessons will not tell you to become someone you're not. Greatness is not about doing everything. It is about doing the right things with deep consistency. Too many people spread themselves thin, saying yes to every demand, chasing every opportunity, and confusing busyness for progress. But motion without direction is simply exhaustion in disguise. To live greatly, you must master the discipline of saying no. Every no you give is a yes to your deeper calling. Every time you protect your focus from the trivial, you create more space for the meaningful. Greatness is not about adding more to your plate. It is about clearing the noise so that what remains is purposeful and powerful. There is also the lesson of environment. You cannot expect to thrive if you constantly surround yourself with mediocrity. The people you allow into your circle shape your standards. If your circle normalizes complaining, you will complain. If your circle normalizes procrastination, you will procrastinate. But if your circle normalizes growth, discipline, and courage, you will naturally rise to meet those same expectations. Greatness is contagious, but so is mediocrity. Choose carefully who has access to your time, your mind, and your heart. Guard your environment as fiercely as you guard your dreams. At the heart of greatness lies courage. Fear is a constant companion in the pursuit of any worthy goal. It whispers reasons to wait, to hesitate, to play small. But courage is not the absence of fear, it is the decision to move forward despite it. Every person who has ever achieved something remarkable has felt fear, but they refused to let fear be the driver. They acknowledged its presence and then chose action anyway. Courage is the bridge between your current reality and your future potential. Without it, your dreams remain trapped in imagination. With it, even imperfect steps lead to extraordinary destinations. Another truth is that greatness does not come from comparison, it comes from authenticity. In a world that constantly measures worth by external metrics, followers, titles, wealth, it is easy to lose yourself in someone else's race. But greatness is not about being better than others, it is about being the fullest version of yourself. When you live authentically, you stop competing for approval and start creating from purpose. You stop mimicking what has been done and start building what only you can bring. The world does not need more copies, it needs more originals. And your greatness lies not in imitation, but in embracing your uniqueness fully. Finally, greatness requires patience. In an age of instant gratification, we expect results quickly, forgetting that the tallest trees grow slowly and silently before they ever tower over a forest. The same is true for you. Your growth, your breakthroughs, your impact, they are not always visible immediately. But each day you show up, you are laying roots deeper into the soil of discipline and resilience. And when the time comes, those roots will allow you to rise taller, stand stronger, and withstand storms that would topple others. Greatness is not built in a rush. It is built through steady persistence, one day at a time. Greatness, then, is a practice. It is the habit of clarity over clutter, of courage over fear, of authenticity over imitation, of patience over haste. When you embody these choices daily, greatness becomes less of an aspiration and more of a lifestyle. And the most powerful realization is this: you already have what you need. You are not waiting for permission, credentials, or a perfect moment. You are waiting for your own decision. The moment you decide to live with discipline, with courage, with authenticity, you are already walking the path of greatness. Greatness is built in the invisible hours. What you do when nobody is watching determines who you become when everyone is watching. The quiet choices, the small disciplines, the daily practices, they form the foundation upon which extraordinary results are built. Too often, people look at those they admire and see only the highlight reel, the success, the applause, the rewards. What they miss are the countless mornings of rising early, the hours of learning when others were distracted, the sacrifices that seemed invisible to the world. Greatness is not an event. It is the result of hundreds of invisible investments compounded over time. One of the most powerful lessons is that you cannot control the outcomes, but you can always control your inputs. You cannot dictate whether the market will reward your work, whether the world will immediately recognize your contribution, or whether every step will go as planned. But you can choose to show up with excellence. You can choose to give your best regardless of the circumstances. Excellence is never wasted. Even when the results are delayed, your character is strengthened, your skills sharpened, and your reputation built. When you commit to excellence in every action, big or small, you are building a life that cannot be ignored. Greatness also demands that you see obstacles not as barriers, but as stepping stones. Every challenge you face carries within it the opportunity for growth. Difficulties reveal your resourcefulness. Pain expands your compassion, and failures sharpen your wisdom. The people who achieve greatness are not those who never fall, but those who learn to rise every time they do. They understand that setbacks are not signals to quit. They are signals to grow. Life is not supposed to be easy. It is designed to shape you, to refine you, to prepare you for the weight of your purpose. The struggle you are in today may very well be the training ground for the impact you are meant to have tomorrow. A critical truth is that greatness is not a solo pursuit. The myth of the self-made person is just that, a myth. Every remarkable achievement is supported by mentors, friends, colleagues, and communities who make the journey possible. You rise higher when you lift others. You become stronger when you allow others to support you. The greatest leaders are not those who climb alone, but those who bring others with them. To live greatly is to understand that your impact is magnified when it is shared. Invest in people, serve generously, empower others to succeed. Your legacy will not be measured by what you achieved alone, but by how many others you helped rise. Greatness requires that you dream bigger than is comfortable. Too often, we limit our aspirations to what feels safe or achievable. But the truth is, the size of your dream shapes the size of your life. If you set your goals within the bounds of what you already know, you will never grow beyond who you already are. To step into greatness, you must dare to set goals that scare you. Dreams that feel too big are exactly the ones that stretch your courage, expand your vision, and ignite your creativity. Do not ask what is realistic. Ask what is possible. Greatness lives not in the predictable, but in the bold pursuit of the extraordinary. And finally, greatness is about joy. It is about remembering that the purpose of life is not only to achieve, but to live fully. To notice the beauty in the ordinary, to laugh deeply and love freely.
Greatness is not about waiting for inspiration. It is about building systems that sustain you even when motivation fades. Too many people think they need to feel ready before they act, but waiting for motivation is one of the greatest traps of mediocrity. The truth is, action precedes motivation. When you move, when you begin, when you take even the smallest step forward, energy and clarity follow. Greatness belongs to those who build habits that carry them forward when their emotions try to hold them back. The most powerful achievers are not always the most passionate in a given moment, but they are the most disciplined in their routines. Discipline creates freedom. Structure creates growth. If you want to live greatly, stop waiting to feel ready and start designing rituals that make readiness unnecessary. Greatness also means choosing growth over comfort. Every meaningful achievement requires that you stretch beyond the boundaries of what is familiar. Comfort is seductive. It whispers to you to stay where it feels safe, to cling to what you already know, to avoid the risk of failure. But comfort is also where dreams go to die. Growth demands that you step into discomfort, that you embrace uncertainty, that you push yourself into spaces where you might stumble. And yet, every time you do, you expand your capacity. You learn, you adapt, you strengthen. What once felt terrifying becomes your new normal, and from there, you grow again. Greatness is not built in comfort zones. It is built in courage zones. Another truth is that greatness requires alignment. You cannot live a powerful life if your actions are constantly at war with your values. Success without alignment is hollow. You may impress others, you may collect accolades, but inside you will feel restless and unsatisfied. True greatness comes when your daily actions reflect what matters most to you, when your work expresses your purpose, when your choices honor your principles, when your relationships reflect your integrity. Alignment brings peace. Alignment brings energy. And alignment ensures that the path you are climbing is actually the mountain you were meant to scale. There is also the lesson of gratitude. Greatness is not only about striving for what's next, it is about appreciating what already is. Gratitude transforms perspective. It turns scarcity into abundance, obstacles into opportunities, burdens into blessings. When you live with gratitude, you see differently. You notice beauty where others see only noise. You appreciate progress where others see only imperfection. Gratitude does not make you passive, it makes you powerful. It anchors you in what is good while giving you the strength to reach for what is greater. Without gratitude, achievement feels empty. With gratitude, even the smallest step feels extraordinary.
Greatness is about presence. Too many people move through their days distracted, half engaged, caught between what just happened and what might happen next. They miss the beauty of now because their minds are stuck in yesterday's regret or tomorrow's worry. But life only ever unfolds in the present moment. If you are not here fully, you are not truly living. Greatness requires the discipline of presence, of listening with your whole attention, of working with your whole energy, of loving with your whole heart. Presence magnifies the quality of your actions. It makes every conversation deeper, every effort sharper, every relationship stronger. To be present is to honor the only time you actually control, this moment. Greatness also means mastering energy, not just time. You can plan every hour of your day, but if your energy is low, your effectiveness will be low. The world's best performers protect their energy as fiercely as they protect their schedules. They rest when they need to, they move their bodies, they fuel themselves with care, and they take breaks before they collapse. Energy is the currency of greatness. When you learn to manage it, you do more than just achieve, you sustain achievement over the long haul. Protecting your energy is not selfish, it is strategic. It ensures that you can keep giving, keep creating, keep showing up at your best. There is another truth. Greatness thrives on simplicity. Complexity is the enemy of execution. When you make things too complicated, you create friction that stops momentum. But when you simplify your goals, your systems, your commitments, you make it easier to succeed. The most effective people often do fewer things, but do them with excellence. They strip away the unnecessary so the essential can shine. Simplicity does not mean laziness, it means clarity. It is the art of focusing on what matters most and letting the rest fall away. Greatness is not in doing everything, it is in doing the right things exceptionally well. Greatness also involves courage in relationships. Too many people settle for shallow interactions, hiding their true selves to avoid rejection or conflict. But greatness calls for authenticity, even when it risks vulnerability. It asks you to have hard conversations with honesty, to express gratitude openly, to forgive when it feels easier to hold a grudge. Authentic relationships are not built on perfection, but on truth. When you show up as yourself, without masks or pretense, you invite others to do the same. And in that space, trust grows, bonds strengthen, and lives are transformed. The courage to be real is one of the purest forms of greatness. Finally, greatness is about vision. If you don't know where you're going, it doesn't matter how fast you move. Vision gives direction. Vision pulls you forward when challenges try to push you back. Vision ignites hope, fuels perseverance, and inspires others to join you on the journey. Your vision doesn't need to be grand in scale to be great. It needs to be authentic. It can be a vision for your family, your work, your art, or your own personal growth. What matters is that it reflects your deepest values and guides your daily actions. A life without vision drifts. A life with vision creates ripples of impact that outlive the one who lived it. Greatness, then, is presence, energy, simplicity, authenticity, and vision. It is the quiet discipline of showing up fully, of protecting what fuels you, of focusing on what matters, of daring to be real, and of moving with clear direction. It is not something outside of you. It is something you practice here and now with every choice you make.
Greatness is not about speed. In a culture obsessed with fast results and instant gratification, it's tempting to believe that the faster you move, the more successful you will be. But speed without direction leads nowhere. The greatest lives are not measured by how quickly they rushed, but by how steadily they built. Patience is the quiet partner of greatness. It allows you to plant seeds, nurture them, and trust that in time they will bear fruit. The tallest trees in the forest did not appear overnight. They grew slowly, silently, consistently. So too will your efforts. Trust the process. Trust that consistency compounds. Greatness is less about rushing to the finish line and more about walking steadily in the right direction. Greatness also demands mastery of attention. We live in an age of distraction, endless notifications, constant noise, and a world that profits from stealing your focus. But attention is the gateway to mastery. Whatever you give your full attention to grows stronger. If you scatter it across trivialities, your life becomes fragmented. But if you focus it on what truly matters, your craft, your relationships, your growth, your life deepens and strengthens. To live greatly is to reclaim your attention from the chaos of distraction and reinvest it into what makes you come alive. Attention is not passive, it is power. Guard it as you would your most precious treasure. Another pillar of greatness is consistency in values. Too often, people adapt their values to fit the situation, compromising integrity for convenience. But greatness is forged when your actions align with your principles regardless of circumstances. Integrity is not about doing the right thing when it is easy. It is about doing the right thing when it is costly. People may forget your words, but they will never forget the consistency of your character. Greatness is not in grand gestures alone, but in the steady reliability of someone whose values do not shift with the wind. Greatness also thrives on creativity. It is not only about discipline and persistence, but also about the courage to imagine new possibilities. Creativity is not reserved for artists or inventors. It is a way of thinking, a willingness to challenge assumptions, to ask, what if? The breakthroughs that change industries, communities, and lives are born from people willing to see beyond what is and dream of what could be. Creativity requires risk because not every idea will succeed, but every attempt strengthens your capacity to think differently, to innovate, to expand. To live greatly is to stay curious, to experiment, to embrace imagination as one of your most powerful tools.
Greatness is not about being busy. It is about being effective. In today's world, busyness is often worn as a badge of honor, as if a crowded calendar proves a meaningful life. But activity without impact is emptiness disguised. The people who achieve true greatness are not those who do the most, but those who choose the few things that matter most and pour themselves into them with focus and excellence. Every yes you give dilutes your energy. Every no you protect expands it. Effectiveness is not about squeezing more into your day. It is about ensuring that your day aligns with what really counts. Busyness is noise. Effectiveness is music. Another pillar of greatness is adaptability. Life rarely unfolds exactly as planned. Opportunities shift, setbacks arise, and circumstances change. The difference between those who survive and those who thrive lies in their ability to adapt. Rigidity breaks under pressure, but flexibility bends and grows stronger. To live greatly is to see change not as a threat, but as an invitation to adjust, to innovate, to see from a new perspective. Adaptability is not weakness, it is resilience in motion. The greatest leaders and thinkers are those who stay grounded in their values, but flexible in their strategies. Greatness also requires the courage to stand apart. Conformity is comfortable, it earns quick approval. But the price of conformity is often the loss of your unique voice. To be great is to resist the pull of the crowd when it leads you away from your truth. It is to dare to think differently, to act differently, to live differently. History does not remember those who blended in. It remembers those who stood out, who had the courage to say, "There is another way." Standing apart will not always be easy. It may invite criticism, but it also creates impact, because originality is what changes the world.
Another truth is that greatness requires rest. This may sound counterintuitive in a culture that glorifies constant hustle, but the reality is that exhaustion is the enemy of greatness. Creativity, clarity, and courage cannot thrive in a burned-out mind. Rest is not idleness, it is replenishment. It is the pause that allows you to return sharper, stronger, and more inspired. Some of the greatest breakthroughs come not in the frenzy of activity, but in the quiet moments of rest, when the mind is free to wander, to reflect, to imagine. To live greatly is to respect your limits, to honor the rhythm of work and renewal, and to give yourself permission to recharge. Finally, greatness is about perspective. The same event can be seen as a tragedy or as a lesson, depending on the lens through which you view it. Perspective shapes experience. When you view setbacks as training, challenges as growth, and difficulties as opportunities, you unlock the ability to stay steady in the storm. Perspective allows you to keep going when others give up, because you see a bigger picture. Greatness comes not from avoiding hardship, but from interpreting it in a way that strengthens rather than weakens you. The power is not in what happens, but in how you choose to see it. Greatness, then, is effectiveness, adaptability, originality, rest, and perspective. It is not about doing more, but about doing better. It is not about clinging to plans, but about embracing possibilities. It is not about blending in, but about standing out. It is not about burning out, but about sustaining. And it is not about perfect circumstances, but about powerful choices.
Greatness is about mastery, and mastery is the result of devotion to the basics. Too often we chase advanced techniques, complicated strategies, or secret formulas, forgetting that the foundation of excellence is built on simple practices repeated with discipline. The greatest athletes, artists, and leaders return to fundamentals daily. They practice the same drills, revisit the same principles, refine the same basics until those basics become second nature. Mastery is not about doing everything. It is about doing a few things so well that they elevate everything else. To live greatly is to fall in love with the fundamentals of your craft and to honor them with consistency. Greatness also requires clarity of priorities. Without priorities, your life becomes reactive, pulled in every direction by demands, distractions, and pressures. With clear priorities, your life becomes proactive, guided by vision and anchored in what matters most. Ask yourself, what are the 3 most important things in my life right now? If your daily actions are not aligned with those priorities, you are leaking energy into the unimportant. Greatness is not about scattering your attention. It is about focusing it like a laser. The clearer your priorities, the stronger your progress. Another key lies in emotional mastery. The ability to regulate your emotions, to respond instead of react, is one of the rarest and most powerful skills. Life will present moments that provoke anger, fear, or frustration. Greatness is not in denying these emotions, but in directing them. Anger can fuel courage. Fear can sharpen awareness. Frustration can drive innovation. But left unchecked, these same emotions can destroy relationships, cloud judgment, and sabotage progress. The great do not let emotions rule them. They use emotions wisely, as signals to understand, as energy to channel, as teachers to learn from. Greatness also asks for humility in success. When you achieve, when recognition comes, when rewards arrive, the temptation is to believe it is all about you. But humility corrodes greatness faster than failure ever could. Humility keeps you grounded. It reminds you that success is never achieved alone, that every win rests on the shoulders of mentors, teammates, and opportunities. Humility keeps you teachable.
even at the top. It allows you to keep learning, keep growing, and keep connecting deeply with others. The moment you believe you no longer need growth is the moment your greatness begins to fade. Finally, greatness is about persistence. The road to anything worthwhile is long and uneven. There will be days when progress feels invisible, when effort feels unrewarded, when the dream feels too far away. But persistence is the bridge between intention and impact. It is the daily return to effort, even when inspiration is absent. It is the refusal to quit when circumstances whisper that you should. Persistence does not guarantee instant results, but it guarantees eventual transformation. And often, those who achieve greatness are not the most talented or the most connected. They are simply the ones who refuse to stop. Greatness, then, is mastery of the basics, clarity of priorities, control of emotions, humility in success, and persistence in the journey. It is not glamorous, but it is powerful. It is not sudden, but it is steady. And it is always available to anyone willing to commit to the practice.
Greatness is about intention. Most people drift through life, reacting to circumstances, following routines without reflection, and hoping that meaning will appear on its own. But greatness is never an accident. It is the product of clear intention, of deciding who you want to be, how you want to live, and what impact you want to leave behind. Intention acts like a compass. Without it, you wander. With it, even small steps move you in the right direction. Every day presents the choice. Will you live by default, or will you live by design? Greatness always chooses design. Another pillar is contribution. At the end of life, few people regret not working harder or making more money. What they remember, what fills them with peace, is the contribution they made to others. Contribution can be grand, a movement, an invention, a legacy of leadership. But more often, it is quiet, a kind word that encouraged someone, a gesture that changed someone's path, a willingness to be present when another felt alone. The impact of contribution ripples far beyond what you see. True greatness does not ask, "What can I take?" but "What can I give?" Greatness is also about courage in decision-making. Fear often hides behind indecision. People delay choices, waiting for certainty, waiting for the perfect time. But waiting too long is itself a decision to let fear rule. Greatness is choosing boldly, even without guarantees. It is recognizing that most decisions are reversible, that progress is made by movement, and that clarity often comes only after you act. Courageous choices move you forward. Timid hesitation keeps you stuck. Greatness comes when you step into the unknown and trust your ability to adapt. Another truth, greatness means living with consistency between the private and public self. Integrity is not about the image you present. It is about the alignment between who you are in secret and who you are in the spotlight. If you want respect, live consistently. If you want trust, be trustworthy, not just when others see you, but when nobody does. Consistency creates credibility, and credibility, over time, creates influence. The great do not need to shout their values. They live them so steadily that others cannot help but notice. And finally, greatness is about possibility. Life will try to shrink you, to convince you to accept less, to settle for mediocrity. But greatness whispers a different truth. More is possible. More growth, more impact, more kindness, more joy. To live greatly is to refuse resignation. It is to look at what is and imagine what could be. It is to stay curious, to keep experimenting, to keep evolving. Greatness is not a final state. It is an expanding horizon. The more you grow, the more you see there is still to explore. Greatness, then, is intention, contribution, courage, integrity, and possibility. It is about designing your life with clarity, giving generously, choosing boldly, living consistently, and refusing to stop growing. It is not a single act, but a way of being, a choice you reaffirm every day. And the reward is not only the life you create, but the legacy you leave behind.